It has been way too long since I have played this game, so it would not surprise me if I get completely and horribly lost. It's possible that there's still something more insightful to be found. I suggest we return to the testimony. Fine. Oh, I am amazed by your sudden patience. It has been a while since a case became so complicated. For now, we should do our best to try and untangle this testimony. Huh. This Turnabout really doesn't sit well with him. Okay, where... Not like they should be able to lie. So what? A contradiction is a contradiction. Keep pointing them out, and we'll set sail for the good end. In this case, it's advisable to focus on the difference to the previous testimonies. Easy to say. Sounds pretty similar to what we've been hearing all day. Though it's hard to keep all the minor details in mind. What? Need a reminder how the previous testimonies went? Don't tell us you can't even do the easy memory-based contradictions. Well, guess you could look up the protocol for me. So, I guess yeah, let's take a reminder. It's been a while. I'll take it. This will permanently set the difficulty to easy mode. Are you sure? I don't mind an easy life, really. Ha! Soon you'll get bored by it. Oh well, if that's your choice. Let me do some digging. Yes. Found it. So, Karen Cat or Nils Gickham? Alright, let's revisit Nils' testimony. I never intended something like murder that night. Got to the ruins and explored them when I heard a scream from where my mentor went. When I got there, he acted like nothing had happened. It was a little scary. I went back to where I was supposed to wait. I was still feeling uneasy. And I suddenly heard a loud bang. Rushed there again and saw the blade shining dark on the dark ground. And there was light coming from an open door. Mr. Ronos was staring over a corpse with a gun. He came rushing at me, so I had out the blade to protect myself and killed him. We disproved of that, right? Victim wasn't actually still holding the gun. When he left the building, at least. Left the building? Something about that feels strange. I have no excuse to not solve the case. Let's be real, May. He isn't even gonna make it to stage 6. Straight back to mocking me, huh? I'll just go back to work. I guess that's what I get for lowering the difficulty level. Okay. Standing in the middle of the place, and the defendant sliced right through his body with a blade.
Hold it!
Just want a refresher. Trying, I assure you. When exactly did you hear the gunshot? After the terrible thing. What are you hiding? Nothing else at the crime scene directly. So we have the 2 witnesses from the... Let's take the reminder of Karen Gat's testimony. I followed the kid and the dead guy outside. They took some weird path but ended up in the ruins, and they shifted around there for a bit. The kid stayed behind at a corner for a bit, and there was a gunshot. Got a mighty bad feeling. Went around the corner and saw the kid with the weapon, totally covered in blood. He ran into some old house there. I followed him a little more to get a good look at his face. It was him, alright. Have a wonderful trial. Thanks, I guess. That's about the same as what we're hearing right now. Mr. Cat never actually witnessed the crime, so I'm not entirely sure how useful that reminder was. #ungrateful. Does he even know what lawyers normally have to deal with? I have to, like, keep all the facts in mind by themselves. Normally there are no lawyers. But if that's true, I can see why they all gave up on the job. Thanks for the reminder. Now you really have no excuse not to solve the case, you know? That's for you, May. He isn't even gonna make it to stage 6. Straight back to mocking me, huh? I'll just go back to work. Okay. Now I need to refresh myself on what we did last video. Because I'm an idiot. We did this, where he presented Nils his profile, had a conversation about what we actually saw. Defendant sliced right through his body. We had this. There was a gunshot. Then remember clearly what happened afterwards. Is this one thing we can do?
Hold it!
I mean, we can't revisit this, can we? And you're sure he got cut through the stomach? If I wasn't sure, I'm sure Mr. Lie Detector would speak up. Please do not reduce me to such a term. And here I thought you're proud of it. Anyway, that's what I saw. No question about it. Straight through the torso went the blade. And the child was colored red from the rain. But you knew that this didn't match at all what we've been assuming, didn't you? Are you accusing me of intentionally misleading you? That's definitely what you are doing. Maybe you do know me a little better than I thought. Wait, you actually intentionally? I refuse to make a statement on that. You won't get away with just a fine if that's true. That's perjury. Perjury? You should know that I've only stated the truth so far. Don't blame others if you failed at your job. Ooh. Ouch. That is enough about that. Witness is correct. An assurance that no perjury is committed is your duty, Mr. Justice. I didn't even know about these witnesses until the very last moment, Your Honor. That's no excuse. For now it is apparent there is no definite proof it was intentional. This topic shall be dropped by us, and the testimony is to be focused on... understood. So we can't win against Talia either. Can't say I'm too surprised. Well, this is definitely a hard contradiction. Keeping it in mind is important, but I should look further at inconsistencies too. I feel like that's one thing we can still go back to, because we've been through this. That man was the victim. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Ronos. It was a man, and the shape of his face definitely looked like him. And he was standing there, in the center of the place. Yes, that's what I remember. He was just standing there. He didn't do anything. Look at anything. No, he was just... there. Seemed to be facing toward us. That might have been my imagination. Curious, what happened next? Well, suddenly, it should be obvious, but allow me to say it. I feel like...
Hold it!
We had this discussion where the slicers would have definitely heard the gunshot, yeah. I'll have to agree with you. Considering how incredibly fast they are, they should have been there within seconds. So, maybe they just weren't close by for some reason. That's the only explanation I can think of right now. Of course, the logic of a plain man like me may not be the most reliable. What would have lured them away? You're asking very difficult questions. All I know is what I witnessed. I didn't see any slicers that night, even after the shot. The unlikeliness of this is important to keep in mind. I think trying to get any more out of it for now wouldn't do any good. And now, instead of trying to find more reasons for or against the East, I should make sure there are no differences between their and previous testimonies. Okay, I think we've been through this. But what do we do here? Because I feel like done this. I think we've done this. Because the issue with this was we should have seen both of them, and we should have seen Nils. And she saw the victim. I wonder if this also contradicts his testimony.
Objection!
Interesting. What? The science of time. Pretty interesting stuff, I'd say. It's all relative. Very hard to say something actually happened. Very hard to say something happened exactly at that point. So instead, I tend to describe what happened when, by relating it to other events. This happened before that. This happened when the hands on the clock showed that. Only we had a better way to pinpoint these events, because your statement just now directly contradicts another testimony. What are you referring to? Everyone heard the gunshot as well. As I said, this is a matter of when they heard it. For Mr. Cat, it's hard to say. He heard it at some point, and then noticed that the defendant was gone. Speaking of the defendant, however, that's where issues come up. After all, he went to the crime scene because of the gunshot. Now, according to you, Mr. Maxwell, the gunshot apparently happened after you'd already witnessed the crime. That's... maybe I was confused. It all happened so fast. No, I don't think that's possible. It's true that you were probably not in the best state of mind after seeing the crime, but you'd still remember if the first thing you heard was a gunshot. It would have been fired before you witnessed anything, after all. That's strange, but it's how I remember it. Wow, Maxwell. Something must be wrong with your memory. The gunshot happened before I even saw the defendant. Huh? What? Yep, definitely. Pretty close call, but it was slightly before the mess happened. That's... Looks like we have conflicting testimonies. One of them must be mistaken. Well, it all happened within a very tight time frame. Due to the shock, Mr. Maxwell's memory must be confused after all. But I just explained. Just explain how that's unlikely. Yet with Miss Porter and all other testimony disagreeing, it seems the only explanation. It's clear the gunshot was fired before the crime. There is nothing to decisively suggest otherwise. You were right in drawing our attention to it. That shall be sufficient. A few notable aspects were brought to light through a defense's effort. Regardless, it is apparent a crime, and what these two witnessed could under no circumstances be the same event. Ooh. Objection, Your Honor. There are still too many similarities to just dismiss this as irrelevant. This is obviously related. Two people dying in a similar manner on the same night? I'm sure there's a good reason for it. To be looked into, of course. However, it appears clear that this changes nothing about our current case. Ooh. We did too well. But they identified the faces. Besides, we've been over how a gunshot in the east wouldn't have ended that well. Where were the slicers if they were really there? It's a fair point, but it's highly unlikely two people would mistake the location they were headed to. Indeed. Unless you are capable of providing one more good reason why this must not have been not east but west. It is my fear that there is no need to continue this trial. Our police will be investigating this other case. So close. Right, for a moment it seemed like this really happened in the east, but... Could that really be true? What are the chances? If it isn't true, then Porter and Maxwell somehow both didn't know where they were heading. Is that really possible? I need to remember the testimony. didn't know where they were heading. I mean, sure, it's possible. Linus, this is the part where you object. This is where we're really out of options, though. They headed to the east, as long as that stands. The prosecution can just dismiss all the problems I discovered. Because apparently that makes it a completely separate incident. You have a lot to learn. Take another look at the testimony. Well, it's too late for that. Well, then just point out the fatal problem, champ. There's another one? Pretty sure I must have found them all by now. You pointed out the ones you can point to with evidence. There's one statement that directly contradicts the assumption. What assumption? The assumption. Well, guess it's up to me from here. Your Honor, this is impossible. This cannot be a separate incident that happened in the East. Because there's another problem with the testimony. You give yourself too little credit. It's quite clear you've already discovered most issues with it during the cross-examination. True, I pointed out all I could with evidence. But there's something else. Something that cannot be pointed out with evidence? How do you intend to present it to the court, then? Good question. Need to think of something quickly. Well, if we could just combine, it would become clear. Elementary combination. That's right, two statements in there create a problem if taken at face value together. Creative? Shush. I hope for all of us that you're not just inventing this to stall for time. No worries. I'll have the inventions for the lab. Oh, I'll leave the inventions for the lab. Just a hunch, but I got the feeling two of these statements, well, they create a contradiction given what we know. Now let's just combine them. At least I'm in my element. Very well. Your work today was of considerable quantity, Mr. Sky. If it is your belief that there is something else, you shall be granted an opportunity of presentation. Your trust honors me, Your Honor. Now then, I'll just have to select the two statements that create a contradiction. First statement is... Oh, Jesus. Okay. Definitely the East Ruins we were headed to. There. Definitely saw it. Build the place in. Slice right through the body with the blade. So shocked. It's a gunshot. Remember what happened afterwards. Told me to call the police, which I did. Oh. Is it this, and the fact that we were definitely headed to the east? We know we're headed to the east, but we called the police. The police knew that the crime was at the West Ruins, and they didn't even touch the east. This is one of them. The other one is... calling the police. And that's the second one. Caught red-handed. Caught red-handed, Talia. I'm surprised I didn't notice this sooner. Trying to get me in trouble again. You should know by now that I can get out of anything. Not this time. I've caught you lying on the stand now.
Objection!
I was about to explain. She didn't straight up lie, but Maxwell helped her create the wrong impression. Because as you recall, he's the one who said that they were actually headed east. However, isn't that curious? After witnessing the crime, Miss Porter went to call the police. And for some reason, she told the police that all of it happened in the West, at our crime scene. Oh shit. Now why would she say that? I suppose they saw all of this in the East after all. Fascinating. I don't think she could have made a mistake. Yeah, no way. Miss Porter knew exactly what she told the police. She wouldn't mess up something as simple like confusing East with West. Now if they had actually both gone to the East, There is no reason to tell them that. What do you think happened? Still want me to spell it out? Only one reason you would tell them to head to the west. You knew that was the correct crime scene. You knew you weren't actually in the east, but the west. Really now? I'm pretty sure we've been telling you the truth so far. That's right. They definitely stated they headed for the east ruins. Today's proceedings, I'm finding it a little difficult for my faith in that to be unwavering. Your ability has seemingly not been fully reliable so far, Mr. Justice. Hey, Your Honor, please! Ha! The prosecutor's getting quite a beating today. True, but I think I'll fare better if I still trust in his ability. Your Honor, this is not entirely Mr. Justice's fault. Witnesses have been using a certain method in order to create a wrong impression. They alternated between statements quite a lot. This allowed Miss Porter to just not state what she knew, leaving it to Mr. Maxwell. Leaving the part they didn't want to talk about to the other person, they might have been able to confuse matters more than they sped them up. Mr. Maxwell truly believed they headed east and said so. Miss Porter, on the other hand, has kept completely silent on that part. I think it's time she's straight with us. Ah, clever misdirection. Cheeky bastard. Alright, let's play. Wait, this can't be right. I'm absolutely certain we headed east. Do you think I'd just not recognize where I am? Well, there might be one way to fool you. I think I've brought it up before, actually. It all comes down to how you actually left town. This shows who could have fooled you into thinking you went east, and how. Mark a location, teleport any physical object to said location. Looking at that. Interesting. I am not 100% sure. I mean, is it Talia? Quick return. Left through the east and teleported back to the west?
Take that!
It's obvious at this point. Yeah, I guess so. We must have left town some way. The only way I can think of right now would be Miss Porter's spell. Now, how would that work? She would have marked someplace outside at some point. That both of you teleported there in the night. If she chose to set it up near the west ruins and claim that you teleported to the east, you'd probably buy it.
Objection!
Just a moment, Mr. Sky. You know that cannot possibly be what happened, can it? The gate record confirms Ms. Porter never left the town within the last 5 months. Even if you claim she set it up before that, they wouldn't have been able to get back inside town without using the gate. A quick return only works one way. She would have had to walk back inside. It doesn't work. That's right. It's clear that they couldn't have used Miss Porter's spell. And now you can no longer deny that the method of how they left town is not relevant.
Objection!
Ooh. Not yet. It's true that if they actually went to the west, the manner of how they ended up there becomes irrelevant. But we still do not have conclusive proof that they did, in fact, head there. Oh, come on, we just went over this. No, we established that Miss Porter told such a thing to the police, which does not prove who of the two is actually mistaken. Well, if you want something else, it's a piece of evidence that links these two to our crime scene. After I've shown it, there shouldn't be much more doubt left. About time I got to present the results of my investigation. Conclusive evidence putting them at the crime scene? Impossible! The police would not have missed such a thing. Maybe you put too much faith into them? Well, convince yourself. This conclusively links the witnesses to the crime scene. That's the wine bottle.
Take that!
That's why we asked about it. That's why we tested it. Allow me to demonstrate the power of science. This broken wine bottle was found at the scene, if you remember. This piece of evidence is not part of my recollection. It had not been brought up yet, Your Honor. After all, nothing in particular was added to the case by it. But you intentionally tried to avoid the confusing bits. At any rate, this piece of evidence was found in... well, pretty much the location these witnesses would have been standing at.
Objection!
And still, it's not directly connected to these witnesses. Could have been something anyone dropped while running away. You're wrong there. This is a really rare type of wine. According to Mr. Maxwell, there are only 2 bottles of it existing within town. Saw one of those bottles in Miss Porter's collection. That leaves the second one. Mr. Maxwell, this is your wine bottle, isn't it? And hopefully, the prosecution will just let him confirm it. Hardly conclusive. You could have sold it to anyone.
Objection!
Nope, impossible. Yesterday, I compared the composition of this spilled wine and a glass at Mr. Maxwell's place. The result was a match. In other words, Mr. Maxwell definitely poured himself a glass of this wine. Now, seeing how the bottle at Miss Porter's place was still closed and full, it's obvious he poured himself a glass from the other bottle. You don't sell a wine bottle after opening it, so he must have kept it. And yes, you are correct. I apologize for deceiving you yesterday. I do not want to get you involved in this, even though it seems like it rather was you who got me involved in the end.
Objection!
How does that make any sense? The bottle was found at the scene. Couldn't be from the same bottle he drank from. Look at the neck of the bottle. It's unquestionably still unopened. Oh. He could not have poured himself a glass of wine, as you say. Well. Eh? Mr. Maxwell? This isn't relevant to the case, so I don't have to explain, right? Your Honor, what do you think? At the moment, I am not certain about my thoughts. However, an explanation of this possibility will be allowed by me, Mr. Sky. However, a provision of an explanation will be your duty entirely. There is currently no reason for forcing a witness's testimony, indeed. Much appreciated. I have everything I need anyway. You do? Nice bluff. Can't fool me, though. This is the perfect locked bottle mystery, Lieutenant. If it is, then the solution is clued very obviously. It's finally time to tear down the wrong assumption we've been making. Or, well, forced to make, due to circumstances. Is it about your spell? There's one simple explanation to how Mr. Maxwell was able to pour a drink from an unopened bottle. We just have to get rid of this false piece of information. Is that your spell? I mean, it's gotta be your spell, right? Mr. Maxwell, something else about this bottle. You see, we found traces of spell used on these shards. It's time you finally told us. About your real spell, that is. My real spell? When I touch a glass of water, I can make the water freeze. I'm tired of hearing that sentence. It's pretty clear that your actual spell can cause this effect. However, if we could also help you pour that glass of wine without opening the bottle, well, that's something completely different, right? Not really. All comes down to how we generalize it. There are 2 major contradictions that your spell is like the explanation to. 1. how you got out of town without any sign of it. 2. How you were able to drink from this bottle without opening it. I think your spell involves... Oh, wow. Teleportation, explosions, transportation through solid matter, or turning into a ghost. Yes, I turn into a ghost, stick my head in the bottle, and drink straight out of it. I kind of want to say this just for the lulz. So if you could temporarily turn into a ghost, that would work. It would leave traces of radiation on his body. Detective Descray would have said something if he noticed traces of that magnitude. Furthermore, this did not seem to resolve the issue with the wine bottle. And for a moment I thought things were about to get spooky. The culprit is a ghost. Wouldn't that be the best solution? As the representative of science, I have to disagree. Okay. Whoosh! Obviously transportation through solid matter. We have to keep in mind where the traces of spell radiation were found. In this case, they were on the walls, rather than the liquid. Furthermore, there are no traces of radiation on Mr. Maxwell himself. We assume he used his spell to leave town and drink from an unopened bottle. That has to involve manipulating something else. And in this case, the clue seems to point toward the walls. Damon Maxwell, you can manipulate solid walls in some way by touching them, can't you? That would explain how you left town, too. You just walked straight through the wall.
Objection!
Oh man! How does this add up with his previous description? You can make water in a glass freeze by touching the glass? Simple. You must be able to manipulate the walls so they only let heat flow outwards, but be unable to enter. Ah, yeah. So it certainly lead to the water freezing as all the heat is drained away. So you're saying his actual spell is manipulation of the property of a wall, specifically what is able to pass through it in what direction. Oh. I'm expecting at least a yes or a no to this explanation, Mr. Maxwell. Well, then again... Oh, Jesus. God, what is... This is really bugging me. I think I can no longer keep it from you, now that it's in the room. You are correct, I'm afraid. My spell was not quite so plain after all. Why did you conceal this? You weren't actually planning on sneaking outside again, were you? Well, you might have. It's a nice trump card that's hard to figure out. More importantly, you should explain to us exactly how your spell works, right now. My spell is called Numinous Doorman. You were able to deduce most of it already. You can change what is allowed to pass through a wall. Sound, heat, specific objects. I can be very specific. In addition, I can decide if it's allowed to pass both ways, or can only travel in one direction. The limit is that I have to touch the wall in question. The moment I am no longer in contact with it, the effect ceases. It also has to be something I would actually consider a wall of some kind. You are absolutely correct. I used this to pour me the glass of wine without opening the bottle. This is also how both me and Miss Porter left and re-entered the town. So you did simply walk through the wall. I suppose a normal patrol wouldn't notice anything suspicious. No, there was no visual indication, unless I allow light to pass through us. I suppose only Mr. Descray would still notice something happening to the wall, then. At any rate, everything just stated was the truth. I do not think there could possibly be even more to his spell. No, this is everything. Good, with that established. Nothing is resolved at all, is it not? The major question remains. How did they, or at least Mr. Maxwell, assume they were in the Eastern Ruin? Taking the spell into consideration, I'm assuming what happened was this. Miss Porter and Mr. Maxwell met up in the eastern part of town, sometime during the night. And they passed through the wall, using Mr. Maxwell's spell. Yes, That is more or less what happened. I do not think there's any way they could have gone the wrong way. Actually, now that we know this, there might be a way. I think I've had a similar theory earlier. There's one thing that could have been used to deceive Mr. Maxwell. Miss Porter could have used this to trick Mr. Maxwell into going the wrong way. Okay, I'm still not 100% sure. But I mean... in theory, she could still use Quick Return. Well, it's the same thing I said earlier, just on a similar scale. Miss Porter could have used her spell at an opportune moment. Could have easily marked the other end of town. Then at an opportune moment, she teleported both her and Mr. Maxwell over to the other end. Aside from ebbing. From being briefly disoriented, he probably wouldn't notice much. After all, the town at night near the wall, you won't be able to tell much of a difference. And so both of them would have walked west without Mr. Maxwell being aware of it. That's exactly what you did, isn't it, Talia? Come to think of it, I got a little lost in town after trying to get home after all of this. At the time I blamed the fact that I was still distraught, but if we were on the wrong side of the town, then... oh, fine. I'll admit it. I'm responsible for the switch. Mr. Maxwell didn't know a thing about it. I made him go west, yeah? But why? Very good question. Wonder if she's going to tell us. Well, witness! I demand an answer. What was this all about? Well, something I wanted to do in that place. Not kill anyone, of course. Just in case you were planning to go there. Could you be a bit more specific? Not really. It's my little secret. Do you really think the court will be satisfied with that explanation at this point? I'm willing to accept the appropriate punishment. Her little secret. Is there anything that might have something to do with it? Something she tried to conceal? Your Honor, the defense believes this might be related to Ms. Porter's secret intentions. Outcast note?
Take that!
I know your secrets. Do you? You should really know by now that it's foolish to try. I should, but oh, I guess that's not it. Lovely. Oh, I'm an idiot. I presented the wrong thing. I should, but there actually is something you won't expect. Looking forward to your next failed experiment. When it comes to blowing up, there's really no equal. At least I'd go out with a bang. Okay, let's present the one that she actually burned. There was an interesting document burning away in your fireplace. Unfortunately for you, burning it does not erase what was written in there. Certain someone was still able to read this outcast report. This rumor again. It wasn't just a rumor. There was more to it. You can't hide the truth from me, Miss Porter. You said you knew nothing about what was going on in the outside world, but that was a lie. Wow, what is Ace Attorney Online doing today? You were aware of someone who lived out there. Someone you actually visited frequently. Visited? If this is true, you were doing something very dangerous, Miss Porter. Impossible. When would this have happened? A fair while ago, apparently. After all, we know she hasn't left town for at least a few months. At any rate, this outcast is described to have a hideout in the West Ruins. Whatever you wanted to do out there, it's related to that, isn't it? Can't believe you actually managed to take a peek at that. Those were private documents, you know. I won't feel sorry when I'm stealing your diary now. Don't announce it. Anyway, if it's out, it's out. You're sort of right. I wanted to visit that hideout. Get some things and stuff. And you tricked me. I see. I understand. Plain man's plain desires are easily taken advantage of. I wouldn't really call them plain at this point. Hey, that's only sort of true, you know? Look, fighting slicers. That wouldn't have ended well. I saved you from that terrible idea. This blade here, though? I knew this was in the hideout in the west. Why fight alive slicers when you can just pick up the material for free? Oh. Could have just told me about it. And welcome to Starting Online being a little shit again. Basically, you wanted to visit the hideout and steal stuff. Don't call it stealing, that's just not right. This weapon was from the west. This weapon was from the west. Yeah, it was mostly used for cutting firewood and stuff. Impossible to fight the haunters with it anyway. An explanation is demanded by me, witnesses. Why was your plan kept a secret from your friend? What were your own reasons for going there? On a mission involving life and death, it is my belief a good reason must be in existence. One would not simply be deceptive with one's own partner on a whim. I wouldn't put it past her, but I guess that's true. Your honor. That's a pretty idealistic view. Well, I'll give you a reason. Whether it's good is up to you. The interesting things I wanted to acquire the most from the hideout were poisons. Oh, what? Well, at least she's honest. Witness, what is the meaning of this? Attempted smuggle of something into safe haven was already a serious enough crime. On top of that, you are saying your intention was the obtaining of dangerous substances. Hey, that's technically not any more or less illegal, right? I just thought it'd be a waste to not take a closer look at them, right? It was medicine, too. That collection was really something. Look at the report. It does mention Miss Porter learned about some substances with interesting effects. Can't say I don't understand her curiosity. Analyzing those might be very insightful. See? When even Linus agrees with me, it can't have been that bad. Anyway, letting Maxwell know of this in advance? Impossible. This guy is super scared of all those spooky stories. You know, the ones about the outcast and the vampire and whatnot. It took him enough resolve to be willing to take the risk at all. If I'd told him I wanted to head out west, to the haunters you can't even fight, to meet the outcast, well, he'd just have hidden in the corner, I'm sure. You're probably right. I've seen things plain men should not see. The vampire really exists. There's something out there. You heard him. And then the crime happened, so there really was no time to actually fill him in. But he certainly does strike me as genuinely terrifying. Anyway, this is still unacceptable. You could have saved us a lot of trouble if you had just told us all of this much earlier. Hey, be glad it all worked out now. I wasn't really thrilled to admit I was after these controversial things either. And a murder trial, no less. Defense jumps on stuff like that. Do you see me jumping? There's one more thing that's kind of problematic here. Maybe I'm just paranoid because it's you. I feel like a murder wouldn't necessarily end getting what you want. Jesus Christ. Especially after going through all that trouble to get out of town undetected. I'm not getting out of this one easy, huh? Just tell me if you definitely did not enter the outcast's hideout on that night. Fine, you win. I did actually enter that house. But what would you have done that? Oh, you poor man. You don't realize how easy it is to trick you despite your spell. I never said I went to call the police immediately. After witnessing the murder, I carefully approached the place. The defendant was just standing there for a while. Until suddenly seemed to notice something coming from another way. Right into the house. Then that other witness showed up and followed up to the doorstep. I kept waiting. Sadly, things didn't really get interesting. The guy left again, and the kid followed soon after that. Well, matches up with what we know from their story, I guess. Suppose you entered the place after this. Of course, that was the plan. Before I got in, I took a quick look around. The place seemed pretty empty. Well, there definitely was a lot of blood and some dark lump that was probably a body. How probable are we talking here? Very probable. I actually got close, and yep, a body with a missing head. The only other weird thing I found was a coffin lying near some wall. Everything else just your regular rubble. Jesus, this is getting annoying. So I got inside. Here's where it gets interesting. Oh, not that interesting, actually. There was that dead person in the chair and the weapon, but nothing else. I take a quick look in the basement and... nothing. The whole collection is gone. The whole place was messed up. Shards everywhere. You probably saw that, though. Following that, I checked the entire house from top to bottom, but didn't find any poison. Despite doing all that, she still was the first to be back in town. I guess it's not really surprising, considering quick return. She could afford to spend the time looking while the others were running. I take it you didn't see anything that could help us then. Nope. No mysterious person, no vampire, nothing you didn't find yourselves. If anybody tried to secretly sneak out of the house while I was there, I'd have heard it. What makes you so confident? Well, the floor's pretty old wood. You've been there, no? Right. It seemed to creak pretty loudly. You'd hear the footsteps of anyone leaving. But no worries. I didn't touch anything in the house. I didn't take or teleport anything away. Same goes for the corpse in the front of it. Just so you don't think I tampered with the scene. Did all of that and kept it from us? As I said, she probably just didn't want to reveal her connection to the outcast. At any rate, it's all cleaned up now. I'd call that progress.
Objection!
Cleared up? Consider this? Cleared up? Anything in this case just became even more confusing. Yes, we have now established these witnesses were actually at our crime scene. However, we already established that their account does not match up at all. Compared to the defendant's testimony, there are at least 2 inconsistencies. There's also the fact that nobody except the defendant heard a scream, which I'll have to admit becomes less plausible with this amount of witnesses. How do we even begin to make sense of this? I think it's safe to say we need further testimony. Except this time, the witnesses don't take turns. That's already caused enough problems. Also, try to remember your own actions, like dropping the wine bottle. Why did he have a wine bottle with him in the first place? Might be worth it to ask him. The defense's suggestion shall be our course, in hopes a satisfactory explanation will be discovered by them. Guess I finally succeeded in turning this case into a legitimate mess. At least judging from the prosecutor's expression. I guess when you're confident everyone is stating the truth, it comes as a much greater shock when they all contradict each other somehow. Oh boy. 2 sides of the same coin. Oh, that's blurry. What is that? That's blurry. I suppose it started when I saw a figure standing in the middle of the place. They got decapitated. I panicked. Wait a minute, but she saw them. Must have dropped the wine bottle. There was a shattering noise. And then, a gunshot. That was too much. I ran away while telling Miss Porter to call the police. Okay, that's some shenanigans. Guess now it's time for my side of the story, huh? I heard Maxwell scream and drop the bottle, too. When I took a closer look, I saw someone who looked like the victim run at the defendant. Maxwell seemed to have run off. Quick when it counts. I told you he easily gets scared. I did what he told me to do. I went to call the police, after a little crime scene visit. Interesting. It It still seems like the same story. Finally, there's something for me to combine again. I believe this issue has already become much clearer, though the previous issues prevail. This cross-examination will show if I'm on the right track. I just have to combine the right part and then show it. Wait, actually... It's two different accounts. Maybe I could even show a contradiction between them. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I need to end this video. That's it. I'll combine two statements from each, then combine the combined statements. Amazing. That sounds like a wonderful idea. Oh, wait. Can't let you do that, Linus. You should know your own limit. Only combine one thing. Don't get cocky. You're not ready for the advanced techniques. Well, I feel like I need to do something. Some combinations to find a clear contradiction. Unless you know any better techniques I'm ready for. You shouldn't have asked. There are things that are better left untouched. However, I will tell you, treat this knowledge with care. It has led many men to ruin. In the wrong hands, it is extremely dangerous. What could possibly be so risky? Unless you intend to fake a kidnapping to stall out the case. Thanks, Trudy. Good. He understands what lengths lawyers have to go through sometimes. At that point, you're just a criminal. Silence, rookie. This isn't about fake kidnapping. You should wish it's just that. Well, you will know soon enough. I shall tell you about the technique from hell. I'm waiting. So is the courtroom. I hope she'll get to the point soon. One piece of evidence isn't enough to prove a point. Oh no. Please tell me we're not going here. We just have to use multiple pieces simultaneously. No! No! Not this! That's it? Do you not understand the implications of this? Doesn't really sound... Oh, he has no idea. Maybe it's for the best. We could also try presenting evidence that multiple statements set this up. Okay. At the same time, what kind of arbitrary argument would ever require me to do that? Wouldn't it be better to just go step by step? Methodically working myself through the pieces required? Please. That wouldn't be as awesome. That would be easy. Okay, I'll just forget about all of this. Let's go with my idea after all. You dare to defy the teachings? Doesn't matter. You can't do it. Combining more than one thing won't work. Guess I'll just... do it metaphorically. There's not really anything solid anyway. We have their statements. We can deduce and remember the implications of their combined meaning. Okay. Guess it doesn't sound too bad. If you pass this test, you have officially achieved a new power level. Thank you, Black Rune, for saving me from the super objection. How do you intend to name your new special move, champ? It needs a name? Of course it does. Don't scientists name their inventions too? True enough, I suppose. If you want a suggestion, I'd call it the super combination. That doesn't sound particularly creative. Let's see. Trying to combine something in both of their testimonies, then have them clash against each other. I got it. I'll call this the cross combination. Okay, that... not bad. I'll accept it. 7.8 out of 10. But we'll see how that works out. Is the defense ready to start their cross-examination or not? Apologies. Got distracted for a second. Time to say if these two testimonies are really consistent with each other. This might lead to even more problems rather than resolve anything. We'll think about the meaning of it later. We should really get started now. Okay, I need to get out of here.